Okay, so we've got all this buzz about MetaConnect 2023, right? Gadgets, AI, the metaverse, the whole shebang. Let's unpack all this, figure out what it really means,
Hmm.
for you and me. Because this wasn't just some tech demo. This was Meta saying, hey, we're serious about this whole blending the real and digital thing.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the stuff they showed off was straight out of a sci-fi movie in a good way.
No, seriously. Remember those clunky VR headsets from a few years ago? Gone. We're talking affordable, powerful VR, AI that's practically reading your mind well, almost, and glasses that feel like, I don't know, magic.
And the thing is, this isn't just about cool tech for the sake of being cool.
Mm.
These gadgets could actually change how we work, how we have fun, even just how we experience the world around us.
Okay, so let's break it down, starting with the Meta Quest 3. They're going right for Apple's jugular, but with a price tag that's, well, a whole lot nicer. $300 compared to $3,500 for the Apple Vision Pro.
Huge difference. And that's going to be key. It's like that classic disruption story, right?
Yeah.
Make something more affordable and suddenly, boom, way more people can jump in.
It's like those old gaming console wars where they slash prices to get everyone on board.
Exactly. And the more people who are using the tech, the faster it develops, the better it gets. It's a snowball effect.
And speaking of cool things that'll make you want to jump in, did you see the 360-degree desktop thing on the Quest 3? It's like your workspace just explodes out of your computer screen. Suddenly you're surrounded by apps and windows. It's wild.
It's more than just a visual trick, though. Imagine being able to multitask in 3D, having everything you need laid out around you in this immersive environment. That's way more intuitive than just having a bunch of monitors, right?
It's like going from a tiny little desk to having an entire, control room to work in. But it's not just about VR either. Meta's AI game was strong at Connect too. And not just, robots doing backflips. This was next-level stuff.
Right. And a lot of it comes down to this thing called Llama 3.2. Okay, the name sounds like a kid's toy, but trust me, it's a big deal.
Okay, I was going to say, Llama 3.2 doesn't exactly scream, technological revolution.
Right. But here's the thing, it's multimodal, which means it understands both text and images.
Multimodal, okay. So not just reading words on a page, it's like,
Yeah.
it gets the whole picture, literally.
Exactly. Imagine being able to edit a photo just by telling the AI what you want, like make the sky more dramatic or add a dog wearing sunglasses. This AI can actually process that because it understands the image and your instructions.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's cool. And then, of course, you had to mention the whole celebrity AI voice thing, right? Like having John Cena in your pocket narrating your life. Okay, maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but still kind of awesome.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually more significant than just a gimmick. It's about making AI more relatable. We're naturally drawn to voices and personalities we recognize, so it's a way to make technology feel more human, less artificial.
It's like the difference between, I don't know, reading a textbook and having a conversation with a friend about it.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe down the line we'll have AI companions that are practically indistinguishable from real people, personalized tutors even, I don't know, digital versions of ourselves.
Okay, now that's just freaky.
Yeah.
But the potential is there, for sure. And speaking of potential, don't forget all the AI-powered stuff Meta showed off for creators. The instant translation tools, for example, that's game-changing stuff. Imagine being able to reach a global audience without language being a barrier.
I was blown away by that. Talk about breaking down barriers. It's not just about making things easier. It's about fostering connection and understanding on a global scale.
No more awkward Google Translate fails, huh? Okay, so we've got the Quest 3 making VR affordable and accessible, AI that's getting smarter and more human-like by the minute, and now let's talk about real-world augmented reality with the new Rayban smart glasses. Because remember their first attempt, yeah, these are not those.
I'll admit I was skeptical at first, but those new features, live translation, object identification, even AI memory assistance, Meta went all out this time.
Seriously. And it's all about making AR useful in your everyday life. Traveling to a foreign country. These glasses translate everything for you in real time. Keep forgetting where you parked your car. Let the AI jog your memory.
It's not just about looking futuristic anymore. It's about actually using this tech to enhance our lives. And I think Meta gets that now, which is exciting to see.
Speaking of exciting, did you catch the Project Orion sneak peek? Okay,
Yeah.
This is still a few years away, but they're talking about AR glasses that use light bending instead of screens. Full AI integration, wrist controls, the whole 9 yards.
Right. We're talking about glasses that basically blend the digital and physical seamlessly, No more bulky headsets, just pure augmented reality overlaid onto your world.
It's giving me some serious, like, Iron Man vibes, you know? And what I love is that they're not just saying, here's this cool tech. They're asking, what would you do with this? What would you do with glasses like that? Think about it. The possibilities are insane.
And that's exactly the point, right? It's about sparking imagination, getting people excited about this future where technology helps us unlock new possibilities, whether that's in gaming, education, work, whatever you're passionate about.
It's like they're handing you the keys to a whole new dimension and saying, go explore. And the best part is, you don't have to be a tech genius to join the party. Meta also went deep on making VR and AR creation easier for everyone, even if you can't code, to save your life.
Right. They showed off some crazy AI tools for building virtual worlds and avatars without writing a single line of code. It's like they want to empower everyone to be a creator in the metaverse.
Okay, so tell me more about these tools. How do they work, and what kind of impact are we talking about here?
So picture this. You want to build a virtual world, right? Like a whole fantasy kingdom or a futuristic cityscape, whatever you can dream up. But instead of needing to know all this complex coding stuff, you literally just describe it to the AI.
You're kidding. Like, you say, I want a castle with a moat and a fire-breathing dragon, and the AI just, like, builds it for you.
Pretty much. It's like having a team of digital artists and programmers at your beck and call, but without the actual team and the, hefty price tag.
That's insane. And it's the same deal with avatars, right? You can customize them, give them unique looks, personalities, all without any coding knowledge.
Exactly. It's all about making this technology accessible to everyone, not just like the tech wizards out there. And
Right.
that's where things get really interesting, right?
Because suddenly, it's not just big companies controlling the metaverse. It's anyone with a good idea and, like, a wifey connection.
Right. Think about what happened with YouTube back in the day. Suddenly, anyone could be a filmmaker, a comedian, a musician, whatever. Now imagine that same creative explosion happening in VR and AR. That's the potential here.
It's like the Wild West of content creation, but in 3D.
Yeah.
But, okay, as much as I love what Meta's doing, they're not the only ones playing in this metaverse sandbox,
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely not. Meta might be making a lot of noise. They've got a good head start, but you've got Google, Microsoft, even smaller startups all jumping into the mix with their own ideas.
It's like everyone's got their eyes on this prize, but what's their angle? I mean, Meta's going for that whole blend of real and virtual, right? But what about the other players?
Well, each company is bringing its own strength to the table, right? Like, take Google. They're the kings of search, information, maps, all that stuff.
So it makes sense they'd want to bring that into the metaverse.
Exactly. Imagine walking down the street, but instead of pulling out your phone to look something up, you just get that information overlaid onto your world, like instantly. Nearby restaurants, historical facts, even directions, all right there in your field of view.
It's like having a personal, all-knowing tour guide with you wherever you go. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, but what about Microsoft? What's their metaverse play?
They're coming at it from a more business-oriented angle, which
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Think about virtual meeting spaces that actually feel like you're in the same room together, even if you're on opposite sides of the world.
Oh, man. Tell me about it. Anything to make those endless video calls a little more bearable.
Exactly. Or imagine like remote training simulations for surgeons or pilots, where they can practice complex procedures in a safe, realistic environment.
Okay, that's next level stuff. So we've got Google with the information layer, Microsoft tackling the business side. But it doesn't end there, does it? I keep hearing whispers about this whole blockchain thing, and honestly, I'm not going to lie, that one still feels a little like magic to me.
Blockchain is definitely one of the more complex aspects of the metaverse. It's basically this decentralized, super secure way to track and verify digital assets, which is important when you're talking about things like virtual property or in-game items.
Okay, so instead of just, like, having a cool sword in a video game with blockchain, you actually own that sword.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like the difference between, renting your apartment and owning your house. It gives you more control and potentially even opens up new ways to make money in the metaverse.
Okay, now that part I get. Everyone loves making money. So with all these players, all this tech, all these possibilities, what's the average person supposed to do? Should we be rushing out to buy, like, a VR headset and a plot of digital land before it's too late?
I think the most important thing right now is just to be curious, to learn as much as you can about this stuff and stay engaged in the conversation.
Because the metaverse is coming whether we're ready or not.
Right. And the more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to shape this thing in a way that benefits everyone, not just, a select few.
Okay, that's a good point. But I've got to be honest, it can all be a little overwhelming sometimes,
Yeah.
keeping up with all the latest gadgets and advancements. Like, do you ever just feel like the future is coming at us way too fast?
Oh, absolutely. There are days when I'm reading about some new breakthrough and I'm just like, wait, what? How is that even possible?
Right, just like trying to drink from a fire hose of information.
Yeah.
But that's why I love these deep dives. We get to slow down, break things down, actually process all this crazy stuff that's happening.
And I love having these conversations, because it's not just about understanding the technology, it's about exploring the bigger questions, the so what of it all.
Exactly. And speaking of big questions, I've got to ask, you're clearly plugged into this world, you're living and breathing this stuff.
Hmm.
Do you ever get freaked out by how fast technology is changing?
Of course. It would be naive to think that any of this comes without risk, without potential downsides. But honestly, I think that feeling, that little bit of unease, it's a good thing.
Wait, really? How so?
Because it means we're not becoming complacent. It means we're actually paying attention. We're thinking critically about the future we're creating. We're not just blindly accepting whatever new gadget or technology comes along.
So it's not about being afraid of the future. It's about
Um,
like meeting it head on, being engaged, and making sure we're shaping it in a way that aligns with our values.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on all this and laugh about how much we worried, how simplistic our early ideas about the metaverse were.
Or maybe we'll be too busy, hanging out in some awesome virtual reality world to even remember this conversation.
Hey, there's always that possibility. But no matter what happens, it's a wild ride, and I'm glad we're on it together.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked tech, we've talked companies, we've even talked about owning virtual swords. But there's one big question we haven't really dug into yet.
And what's that?
The human side of all this.
Mhm.
How is this thing, this metaverse, actually going to change the way we live, work, connect with each other? That's the real question, isn't it?
It is. And it's a big one. Definitely something worth diving into a bit deeper.
So let's dive into that then. We've talked about all the cool tech of the companies battling it out, even the whole like owning virtual stuff thing.
Yeah.
What does it all mean, for us? How is this metaverse going to change how we live our lives, how we work, how we connect with each other? That's the big question, right?
It really is the million-dollar question. And it's one that has experts in like every field, from tech to sociology to philosophy, kind of scratching their heads, both excited and a little bit, I don't know, wary.
Yeah, because it's not all fun and games, right? There's got to be some potential downsides to this whole metaverse thing.
Absolutely. But let's start with the good stuff first, the potential upsides. And honestly, there are a lot of them. Imagine a world where, like, where you live doesn't actually limit your opportunities. Education, healthcare, job opportunities. Everyone could have access to the same resources, regardless of location, with just an internet connection.
Okay, now that would be huge. No more geographic limitations, everyone on a level playing field. That could change everything for a lot of people.
Exactly. And think about the potential for like cultural exchange. What if you could visit museums across the globe, attend a concert in Tokyo one night, and a Broadway show in New York the next, all without leaving your living room?
Okay, see, now that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of cool stuff that gets me excited about the metaverse.
Right. And it's not just about entertainment either. Imagine the possibilities for global problem solving. Scientists from different countries collaborating in real time within a shared virtual space, working together on things like climate change or developing new medical treatments.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. But, and I hate to be a downer here, but we got to talk about the potential downsides too, right? Like, I've heard people say that the metaverse could make us more isolated from each other, that we'll be so busy hanging out in virtual worlds that we forget how to interact in the real one.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern. I mean, we already see some of that with social media, right? People spending hours scrolling through their feeds, feeling more connected to their online lives than their real ones. So the question is, how do we make sure the metaverse doesn't just amplify those problems? How do we design these virtual spaces in a way that encourages healthy social interaction, that complements our real world relationships instead of replacing them?
Yeah, because it's not like we can just unplug from reality completely,
Right.
as much as we might want to sometimes.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of digital equity. We keep talking about all these amazing things the metaverse could enable, but that's only if everyone has equal opportunity to participate.
Right. So it's not enough to just build these cool virtual worlds and hope for the best. We have to make sure everyone has access to the technology, the education, the resources they need to thrive in this new digital landscape.
Exactly. We have to be really intentional about closing the digital divide, not widening it. And then there are the less existential but still important questions about like safety and security.
Right. Because the internet can be a scary place sometimes.
Mhm.
What about things like harassment, misinformation, privacy violations? How do we make sure the metaverse doesn't just become a breeding ground for all the worst aspects of the internet?
It's like building a whole new society from scratch, right? We have to establish rules, norms, safeguards, and we have to do it in a way that's inclusive and equitable. And that's going to take a team effort.
So it's not just on the tech companies, it's on all of us.
100%. Policymakers, educators, parents, everyday users, we all have a role to play in shaping what this thing becomes. And that starts with being informed, being engaged, and not being afraid to ask the tough questions.
Okay, so if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, okay, I'm convinced the metaverse is a big deal, I want to be a part of shaping it, what can they actually do?
Well, first of all, just being aware of these issues, having these conversations, that's a huge first step. Then, support organizations that are fighting for digital equity and responsible development in the metaverse. Get involved in those conversations, make your voice heard.
So don't be a bystander. Be an active participant in shaping this new world. I like it. What else?
And maybe most importantly, just remember that even though it's virtual, it still involves real people, real feelings, real consequences.
It's like that saying, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Right.
We have to approach the metaverse with a sense of responsibility, with empathy, with, I don't know, basic human decency.
Exactly. Because ultimately, the metaverse has the potential to be this incredible tool for connection, for creativity, for pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But it's up to us to make sure it's a force for good.
Now that's a future I want to be a part of. Well said.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
That's a good one. I guess I would just say this. The metaverse isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's something we're all creating together, whether we realize it or not. The decisions we make today, the conversations we're having right now, those are the things that will shape what this future looks like.
That's a powerful thought. A little daunting maybe, but mostly exciting, right? Well, on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this journey with you. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the metaverse. Keep those minds open, those imaginations going, and as always, stay curious.